We get a time.
Okay, recording.
Hi, good evening, Scott. How's it going?
Good. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. First and foremost, want to thank you for taking the time to, get back and follow up with me here. I know our last conversation didn't really go as planned, and was hoping that we can continue that conversation and kind of air things out and get things a little straightened out, if that's all right with you.
Yeah. Did you meet with Energy about a potential job?
Yeah, we did. I did talk to some of the folks over there, but I think, after evaluating our conversation, I'd like to go over some of those key points that we discussed and, possibly rehash my decision and stay within the group.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. I'd like to just go and start by discussing kind of what started my reaction during our last meeting. And I think, the facts on the ground were primarily that I was under the belief that I was to be the highest compensated associate. And in speaking to our other associates, I discovered that, individuals such as Patrick and Alan, Patrick at the same level of compensation and Alan getting more than me. So I found, that information to be a bit shocking, and what drove my reaction there. I think I can admit that I wasn't understanding enough of the extenuating circumstances that may influence the compensation of other coworkers and their performance. And I was kind of hoping to get your thoughts on those facts there.
Yeah. Are you not happy with the compensation you got?
I definitely am happy with what I got, but I was also under the impression, from a past conversation that we had had, that I was going to be the highest compensated. And when I found out that that wasn't in fact the case, I was a little angry, and probably should have approached it differently. But that was the main driver and kind of my reaction during our last conversation.
Mhm. Well, Alan he worked out externally before coming in, so he has more years of service. While you have been at this company the same time, there's a difference level. So I value your contribution, and I think you're a top performer, but there's different circumstances for different individuals as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think based on the facts, I was able to conclude that my reaction perhaps wasn't the best, and understanding Patrick's situation, and that shouldn't have influenced his compensation just because he wasn't around. Obviously, it was a medical issue, and I was upset initially, but now that I understand, I'm a bit more understanding of that. And obviously, Alan's situation is very different as well. So whereas I was confused and a little worked up by that, I did allow my anger to sway my reaction to the situation and affect me in a non-professional manner during the last way we spoke. So is there something I was missing in the way in which I reacted and shared my feelings?
No, I think, Todd, we look at you and we look like you're going to be a future partner in the firm, but the behavior you presented of harshly judging your peers doesn't make partner track behavior. And so that's what we're hoping to see for the future of you at the company.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think this would be a good time to hash out what our path forward may be. As mentioned earlier, I would like to stay within the group, and I think I don't need to move on. And I would still, like I said, the compensation is good, and talk about where we can go in the future. But I do think that moving forward, I'd like to stay here and continue on with the group. I'd like to see what your thoughts and opinions are on that.
Yeah, and I understand acting out of emotion in the time being, especially when it comes to things like salary and compensation. So I appreciate you following up with me and having this conversation to help us understand each other better.
Awesome. So I think if we can agree that I'll stay within the group and continue to work on my reactions in the future and show more confidence in your guidance, and I'd really appreciate that.
Awesome.
Well, thank you, Scott.
Yep, thank you.
Right. So I think Faith, you'll be giving the verbal feedback on our end, and then Kirsten and I will grade your verbal feedback. Correct.
Yeah, I think so. I thought that you did well with the state order. You went off, started an introduction, I thought really well with just like the normal casual, hi, how are you? And then easily slid into the facts of what was going on. but keeping it as a like not remorse. I don't think that remorse is the right word, but an understanding that the previous actions weren't the best, but still getting your point across of how and why you reacted that way and what the cause of that was, which you then led into the story pretty well. I think the asking for Scott's side of the story and potentially allowing them to add in their feedback, I thought went well as well. I think probably a little bit more of like a straightforward question of like sorry, the dogs are all moving around here. What their specific goals for you could be. But I think overall it sounded really well. And then maybe at the end adding something along the lines of like having a more regular conversation about your position, just to keep the open communication part of the state. But I thought it all sounded really well and had
Awesome.
a nice flow to it.
Thank you very much, Faith.
Okay. So now I'm Todd, Faith, you're Scott.
Sounds good.
I also put the Google Drive if everyone wants to save all of their things in the folder in the Google Drive. As we go. Okay. Hi, Scott. Thanks for taking the time to meet with me. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. We left our conversation a little bit abrupt last time, and I wanted to talk through my perspective and get your perspective on our last conversation where my emotions got pretty heightened. Do you have a time right now to have this discussion?
Yeah, now is a good time. I'd love to hear more from you about the situation.
Okay. So my side of the story and the facts that I was told was Alan was in the bullpen explaining that he was making, when we were talking about bonuses, he was sharing that he was making more than me. And from my perspective and my emotional response was I had thought you had said and committed that I was going to be the highest paid associate. And so when I heard that from Alan, I started to feel betrayed, like you were lying to me and kind of making a fool out of me and that information, or making false promises to everyone. And that made me feel like my performance here was devalued. And so I wanted to talk through what are your side of the story, or I didn't ask many questions in the heated moment. So what is your side of the story regarding compensation and Alan, and then my place in the firm here?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to apologize for you feeling that way and feeling unvalued or unwanted, because you are a very big performer on our team. The real difference here is that in the 3 years that you've been working, you have showed great potential and a great future with the team. But when comparing to Alan, who's been with us for an extensive period of time, it's just a different scenario. And I do understand how maybe my words had portrayed it a little differently than what you may have thought. When I say you are a top performer, I do mean it. You just don't necessarily have the years background to initiate that compensation.
Yeah, and that's clear that from the conversation I was missing that perspective, as well as took some of the feedback you gave regarding Patrick, that to give some of the benefit of the doubt and the leeway, which is what I appreciate the culture of this company, and then reacted negatively when I understand that's one of the core values.
Yeah, we really do try to keep our team together going through hard times. That way we can really build it up and have a strong team.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else I could do differently to make myself a top performer in this situation?
I think just again keeping an open mind to your fellow members. I think your performance is great. I was a little disappointed in our previous meeting. You seemed a bit checked out, and I can understand that the wheels were turning on the current situation, but I would prefer in those situations to still focus on the meetings at hand, and talk to me about problems or situations in a way that doesn't conflict with our current meetings and current clients.
Yeah, and I appreciate that feedback because I do aware my behavior wasn't acting in a professional way and could have potentially impacted the client when I didn't have all the facts before being the only representation in the meeting. So I do appreciate that feedback and am aware I need to adjust my behavior moving forward. So is there anything else? Otherwise, I'd like to thank the time for meeting with me and for sharing both of our perspectives in this issue.
No, I think we're good. I'm glad we were able to meet and hash this out a little bit better and hopefully get a better perspective on what was going on.
Awesome. Thanks for your time, Scott.
So it's a feedback.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was really good. Like the introduction, you start how the introduction you yourself was really good, and asking for time and then giving time to Scott for the explanation was really good. And I think you did very well. So it's really good conversation, like giving an open and conversation time for Scott thinking and then explaining Scott's position too. So that was really good.
Okay, thank you. Now Faith is Todd.
Yeah.
Who, Kristen is Scott, or who is Scott?
Yeah, I'm going to be Scott.
Sorry.
And then Joe's giving the verbal feedback.
Yep.
Sounds good. All right. Good afternoon, Scott. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. The purpose of this meeting today is I just wanted to follow up after our last conversation. I definitely didn't leave it feeling resolved, and I definitely left it feeling a little embarrassed in the way that I responded to the current events at hand. I did want to talk to you through kind of what I was thinking and what facts were going on in my head at that period of time. Previous to our meeting, I had talked to a few of my fellow associates and I'd come to the conclusion that I wasn't one of the top paying associates, which I thought, under the impression of our previous conversations, I was. I do understand that there are different circumstances between the other associates, but when you had mentioned that I was one of the top performers and was compensated that way, it had just got me feeling a certain way, and I wasn't sure if maybe like you were just telling me these things to make me look bad or just to take an easy way out of that situation. But after our conversation, I do realize that I wasn't necessarily hearing your side of the story. I do appreciate the team and the company that I'm working on with you, and I hope to resolve this issue. I would love to hear how you thought the situation went, or felt about how it went, how the conversation took place.
I really appreciate that you accept your actions, and I really like that one. But thinking about like you are being underpaid is not good. Like everyone has his own strength and weaknesses, and everyone is doing good just like you. And talking about Patrick, Alan or Patrick, those are senior analysts, and they are paying exactly according to their experiences like you, and you are doing really well, and we are focused on your performance too. We admire your performance, and we want you to stay with us and just to focus on your performance, and we will see your salary and see if we can do anything in that as well.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. I would also like to hear from you if there's anything more specific I can do to help grow my presence on the team or improve to be able to kind of reach a similar status as Alan and Patrick on the team.
Yeah, you are on the right track. You just need to do some more dig ups in your area and do some more come up with some more exciting ideas like the senior analyst does. So we definitely consider you as a senior analyst. So yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Moving forward, I would love if we could have the opportunity to meet more regularly and just kind of talk about my performance and have the ability to ask any questions moving forward, just so that way I don't put myself in another situation like this where I get a little too hot-headed into a conversation. So I'd love if we would be able to either meet monthly just to go over the month and my performance, if you're okay with that.
Absolutely, that's a great idea. That sounds good to me. So yeah, we will schedule a monthly follow-up meeting on your performance and other things, how we are seeing other things in the in organization. So yeah, definitely we can do that.
Perfect. Great. Thank you again so much for meeting with me today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you, Faith.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.
All right. So I think that went really well. As far as the role play in general, I think it was really good. I'd say the opening statement may have been a bit longer than anticipated, kind of when you were giving out the details and all that stuff, maybe a bit more interaction with Tayyib or with Scott on that front end would have been nice. But I think overall you laid out everything pretty well, and I really enjoyed the closing portion of it, how you asked for more details and specifics and asked for follow-up meetings to make sure you excelled within the company and got to your end goal. So I think they said overall just that front bit be a bit more interaction, but outside of that, it was really good.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, so are you ready, Joe?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, Scott, thank you so much for taking out time for this meeting. And I really appreciate your time. And I just wanted to discuss about our last meeting, which it didn't go well, about my salary and my bonus and how I reacted to your comments and how I get frustrated. So yeah, I just want to say that it was my bad that I pointed out other employees on the salary issue, and then I pointed out on their performance. So yeah, I just want to say you, like, I wanted to stay in this firm and I am focused on my performance and I am as promised to my job as well. So yeah, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, Todd, I appreciate you reaching out. Obviously, the interaction that we had last time was very unexpected. I don't believe I lied to you intentionally in terms of what your compensation was. So to hear that and the fact that other employees and yourself were discussing compensation was very disconcerting. And I think you're fairly compensated. You give excellent work. And, so I was a bit disappointed in that. And I understand your feelings, but gotta work on how that comes out every now and then, and we'll see how we can advance going forward. If you have some extra talking points about that, what you think about that?
Yeah, sure. I was definitely frustrated regarding the salary, but now I understand, like, everyone has his own things going on in their performance as well as their personal life, like how I pointed out that Patrick flagged out. But yeah, he wasn't well, so I understand his situation right now. So I'm pretty much sure that I won't be doing this kind of stuff in future. And yeah, and now I'm clear about my salary and bonuses. Like, yeah, I'm getting paid according to my performance, and I and I am 100% sure like you guys will definitely give me a rise when you feel good or when you feel comfortable for my performance. So yeah, I definitely understand that.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear you say that, and it makes me, more comfortable and in keeping you here on the team and us moving forward, and make sure to stay in contact and continue to work through kind of some of the issues. And I'm glad you understand, the facts that have been laid out on the ground.
Yeah, yeah. So other than that, what do you suggest me how to deal with such kind of thoughts or and such kind of frustration like feelings when I when I get to this? So what are your thoughts on that? How do you suggest me?
Absolutely. I think if you get into those situations again, my office is always open. Please feel free to come in separately and don't not let that affect you during meetings that we're having with other employees. And I think, getting the facts laid out early and often will help, improve our relationship and continue to help you grow on the team and get you to where you need to be. So I think we can continue to meet and discuss this, and we'll continue moving forward.
Oh, okay, that sounds good. Like we can do our monthly meetings. Like
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, that sounds good. Okay,
Yep.
thank you so much, Scott. Thank you so much for your time and understanding my position. And I'll do my best. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Todd.
Okay, who's
Ready for feedback?
yeah, sure.
Okay. So the main thing I wrote was a great opening and summary, and you did a great job explaining from a place of vulnerability. So admitting fault, to make it an open, like showing that you're open for feedback and working on that part of the conversation. It's the kind of the storytelling or sharing of facts and telling your story is where I think the largest growth is that you showed your emotional response from the storytelling, but not what got you there of like why, what facts were you presented with from that perspective. Could have used more. But then the rest of it, I think starting from a place of vulnerability really maintained that safe and open. And you asked a lot of questions such as what's your thoughts on this? And gave him room to speak. So great job.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so we're done with the recording.
I'm muted. 1 second.
Yeah.